We often talk about how important economics really is on this channel, and not just general economics of like towns and areas, but entire countries. And we have to go back to the Leveling Up white paper report because I am always shocked at the fact that in the first two chapters, the Tories got it right. And that pains me to say that the Tories got it right. But if you read those first two chapters, it points out all the problems that the UK economy is facing, from lack of investment to the fact that we do not have a cohesive industrial strategy of focusing on the stuff that we are good at so that we become better at it, looking at our weaknesses and how we can turn those strengths or those weaknesses into strengths. The chip manufacturing debacle that we covered a couple of months ago now is a fantastic example of that. Rishi Sunak's trying to attract all these, these microchip companies to the UK, and it is but a minuscule drop in the bucket. Meanwhile, that all those chip companies looking at America going, yeah, that's a good place to move to. Europe is doing something very interesting as well, and all the chip companies are going, that's very good to move to as well. Meanwhile, Japan spending about a bit more, roughly the same type of money. And instead of trying to spread the butter thinly in Rishi Sunak's and the Conservatives case, which isn't going to help any of those tech companies at all develop that kind of capacity that they need, instead, Japan is going to set up its own nationalized chip factory, just one. And that is going to expand, and they're going to focus on that and build upon that. And that is roughly the same amount of money that they are spending. Why can't we do that? Oh, that's because, well, it's Tories. They do not understand their own bizarre, failed economic policies. And this came up today in The Guardian. I think this is a fantastic article. And indeed, the person who wrote this back in 2012, 2013 was warning the government that, look, you cannot cut your way to growth. If you genuinely want to grow the economy, you have to invest in it. You have to look at good ways you can grow the economy and look at it from a perspective that does not just, achieve growth, but achieves sustainable growth. Because we have a big late stage capitalist problem where we are trying to achieve the ever increasing growth and finding it even more difficult to actually achieve this crazy unsustainable level of growth that the free market fundamentalists demand of their economies. So we've got to change our look at the economy and how we look at growth, and more importantly, make it more sustainable. And I want to go over the 4 ideas that she brings up of how we can improve our economy, because I think they are very, very, very much worth discussing in this. So, as always, thank you very much to all those people who do help and support the channel. Like I say, please do remember to click on the like, share, and of course the subscribe button if you aren't subscribed. And of course, down below there are links to my Patreon page, the One Off Nation link called Buy Me Coffee, where you can vote Buy Me Coffee. There is the YouTube thank you button, and of course the Pony Club down below as well. So I definitely want to go and encourage you to read the article because it is very good. It's in The Guardian with the title of Sunak's Tories and Starmer's Labour. Britain is stuck in a doom loop of failed economics. Here's the way out. So we're just going to go down. And by the way, the rest of the article, very good. It tells you why we're stuck in this in this doom loop. But I want to go over the solutions because I think these solutions are really, really good. And it's something we should definitely be looking at. So the first It requires setting a clear direction. Even in the Levelling Up white paper, it calls out the fact that the UK's industrial strategy completely muddled. So that excellent. Yes, I 100% agree. We do need a clear direction of travel. So governments can orientate industry strategy and investments around bold goals, such as healthy, sustainable, and tasty schools meals for all children, to shape economies that not only grow, but grow in ways that are designed to benefit the people and the planet. And what she's referring to here is that rather than give children free school meals, which again, I still think we should do that, instead, what we do is we can make these even cheaper by getting the food sourced locally for these schools. That improves UK agriculture, that improves local farms, and especially rural economies. That's not a bad idea. And that is actually something that is talked about in here. Paint your town red, making sure that your local council is sourcing things first and foremostly in a local position, because it helps build your local economy first before anything else. So again, all for that. That's very, very good. I'm fully for that. So second, the government should approach the relationship between government, business, and labor. That's good, because you've got to include labor. Very, very often, governments just look at businesses and they ignore the labor part. And they should really look at that. So they should approach government, businesses, and labor in such a way that risks and rewards are equally shared. Cannot agree more with that statement. So this is about establishing a new social contract. While public-private partnerships can and should create private value, the government's role is to maximize public value. And I can't agree with that more. That is always and what should be foremost at the front of a government's role. What is good for the public? Yes, a government can help create jobs, and that eventually will be good for the public. But what type of jobs are being created? Where are these jobs created? Are you creating the skills for these people to go into that type of job? We've talked before about Tony Blair's grand strategy of getting more young people, getting them upskilled, getting them into these higher rate jobs. And what Gordon Brown wanted to do was continue on with that by building and investing in those higher skilled jobs. Unfortunately, they never really got to finish off and complete that plan. And instead, the Conservatives have come along to the harvest and, well, they've just set the field alight, essentially. So back to it. So this requires setting conditions on any benefit granted to the private sector. Yes. This is something that we should do. Set goals that if you are going to get public money, there must be a benefit gained. And it can't just be jobs. We talked about the steel industry production that they're screwing up at Port Talbot. Yeah, the steel industry down there and Tata are getting a big subsidy from the government, but they're cutting over 3,000 jobs. How is that going to be a benefit to that sector and a benefit to that area? It's not, unfortunately. But that is what we should really be looking at. So they continue. So these conditions for this only benefit to the benefit granted, of course, to the private sector through grants, loans, procurement deals, tax incentives, or other means. So, for example, to ensure affordable prices, such as with the Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine during the pandemic, share profits or IP rights, require fair labor practices and carbon emission reductions, or limit shareholder buybacks, as was done with the US Chips and Science Act, and require reinvestment in research and development or worker training. All things I think we can agree on. That's what we definitely need to be doing. If companies are receiving public money, then there must be return of public value. And setting those limits of, well, now there can't be there can only be a limit of shareholder buybacks, or you've got to share the profits with your workers, or you've got to reinvest all that profit that you get from this into research and development or worker training. Excellent. Excellent. So, third, this requires citizen engagement. I'm all for citizen engagement on this channel. You know that. So, at a time when public disenchantment with government leadership is rife, it is more vital for economic strategies to benefit and resonate with people that they are ultimately for. Very, very true. Economics, to be honest, if you try and talk most people about this, they turn off very quickly. It's not a fun subject, but you've got to find ways to talk and engage with the public that, we are doing this for your good. These are all the benefits that is going to be, and talk with the local public about what they want in their areas as well. So as politicians watch the polls and try and refine their policies agendas, they should be looking for ways to meaningfully engage in ground up conversations with people for Britain and really listen to them. So there's been a big push recently for citizens' assemblies. And should we bring in citizens' assemblies? Wouldn't be an overall bad idea, to be honest. I would be quite for citizens' assemblies, but it depends the direction of how we do it. What do they end up listening to? Do they take on board these advice? Which way, what do they do with them? So we'll see which way they go on them. And then this is such a I love this because I hadn't really thought about this, but it's something we in the UK really need to do. So finally, directing and shaping growth requires investments in dynamic public sector capabilities, tools, and institutions. And that is true. This is something the Conservatives have stripped to the bone. They've really, really decimated our public services and public sector capabilities. So to build back the state's entrepreneurial capacity. Conversely, this means avoiding the pitfalls of over-reliance on consulting firms, a tendency that the UK has repeatedly fallen victim to and is the subject of my new book, The Big Con, How the Consulting Industry Weakens Our Businesses, it infantilizes our governments and warps our economics. Again, good book plug for the person. Probably well worth a read. But I can't disagree with that, because we see this all the time of this money goes out to consulting firms. They earn millions of pounds. And then the big problem is that institutional knowledge, those institutional skills don't get brought into the public area. So you don't have the proper knowledge, the skills, and the capability to be able to look and run these functions. And if you don't have that, then you are setting yourself up for disaster further down the road. That is something I can get behind on. So, like I say, definitely recommend going reading out this full article. Marina Masuko, I can't remember pronounce a second name. Definitely go look her up. She's a very, very good economist. She's definitely one of those people who was spot on the money right back in like 2012, 2013, saying, hey, you can't cut yourself to growth. You have to invest. Governments have to do that, or else you'll find yourself in a worse situation. Can't say she hasn't proven herself right. But then again, she wasn't, like, say, the only economist back then saying that. So those are, to be honest, I think 4 very good points about the economy we should indeed look at. I can't disagree with any of those points. I think that is what we should absolutely be looking at. But like I say, let me know what you think down below in the comments. And of course, as always, please do remember to click on the like, share, and subscribe button before you leave. And of course, as always, we'll see you all next time.